What is it like to die? Dr. Kenneth Ring has spent the last 5 years interviewing hundreds of people who have nearly died. In this program, he has chosen 4 people who are representative of those he has interviewed to describe their experiences and how it has affected their lives. Their reports are giving us a new view of death.
And I was in a car accident and thrown out. Was in severe pain. I had a fractured clavicle and lacerations all over my body, and I had thought that I had broken my jaw. I had tremendous pain in my jaw, and I went unconscious.
Basically, the truck did fall on me, and the frame of the truck came across my chest so that it immediately pushed all the air out of me.
The day they sent me home from the hospital, they graciously gave me a lot of medication, so I'd have a comfortable ride home and I'd be fine when I got there. And the result was that it was too much for me, and when I got home, I collapsed.
I began to hemorrhage internally. The stitches that were inside my body, evidently the wound did not heal, and I lost quite a bit of blood.
The subjects were asked to describe their near-death experiences.
The thing that amazed me was that as the pain became extremely severe, my breathing became far more shallow. And as I exhaled, I became very numb. And the more numb I became, I sort of just, without realizing it, zoomed out of my body like in a funnel fashion and just hovered over it. And I wasn't aware that I had left my body at that time. I was only aware that I wasn't in pain and that something was different. And then I became very familiar with my surroundings and space and realized that I was separated, but still did not know exactly how, until I got high enough up where I saw a bald-headed man put a blanket on my body. And the most interesting thing at that moment was when I realized I was out of my body and that I was no longer Vita. I did not have a gender whatsoever. There wasn't a back, front, or anything. I was shapeless, odorless, colorless, just something like an invisible gas of some sort. And I just experimented with the air around me. I was the atmosphere. And the higher up I went, the more I became part of the air. An interesting thing was that my hearing during this escalation was extremely acute, as though I was next to anybody who was nearby. When the police came, I could hear them as accurately as though I was standing right by them. When they were trying to shake me, on the ground, as though I was back in my body again.
And I felt myself going. I was in a great deal of pain. It was a very frightening experience. I began to slip. I just sort of feel myself going. And I remember trying to hold on. I'll be okay, I'll be okay. And it got to the point where, I just couldn't. And everything began to just become very quiet. And I can remember with every ounce of strength I had, I wanted to say goodbye to my wife. It was important to me. And I did. I remember just turning my head, looking at her and saying, I'm going to die. Goodbye, Joan. And I did. It was then that I experienced what we call a near-death experience. For me, there was nothing near about it. It was there. It was a total immersion in light, brightness, warmth, peace, security. I did not have an out-of-body experience. I did not see my body or anyone about me. I just immediately went into this beautiful, bright light. It's difficult to describe. Matter of fact, it's impossible to describe. Verbally, it cannot be expressed. It's something which becomes you, and you become it. I could say that I was peace. I was love. I was the brightness. It was part of me. I had no recollection of anything, anything biological. It's not like you could see something. because your sight is biological, it's necessary here. Hearing is necessary here. Speech is necessary here. It's not there. You just know. You're all-knowing. Everything is a part of you, and it's just so beautiful. It was eternity. It's like I was always there, and I will always be there. That my existence on Earth was just a very brief instant. It's a hard concept to understand, eternity, because when you compare it to time, time requires progression. Things, a sequence of things. Things follow each other. This is all at once, everything. There's no passing from one thing to another. I'd like to call it a different dimension, but can't really call it that, because that could be defined, and there are different dimensions. They have beginnings and ends, and so that doesn't fit.
At the point that actually happened, I was screaming and I was vomiting at the same time, and I felt myself getting ready to pass out. And I was conscious of my two sons were standing in the doorway, and I was looking at my husband, and the next thing I know, I was looking down at my husband. And it was unclear at first. I said, I'm looking at myself. And I looked down at the bedroom scene, and all of a sudden I said, my God, I'm dead. And the only way I can describe my immediate feeling was, if you could describe or see or feel a smile or a complete contentment or happiness, that was it. I seen myself, my physical body was still alive, and I was still screaming.
Could you see yourself clearly?
Yes, very clearly. And I could see the backs of my husband's head and my mother's, and I could see my sons. I had a very good, clear vision, but I had no feeling towards these people. If anything, I was looking down in amusement, because I still had this smiley feeling. And I had no attachment, no feeling. It was like I was looking at that glass of water. I mean, I have no attachment to that glass of water. That's how I was viewing myself.
Just looking as a spectator, Mike.
Exactly. And I felt that I was in a vacuum. The reason I say that is because I could hear nothing, but yet I heard the vacuum. Not a noise of a vacuum cleaner, but I heard the quietness. And with that, it was a peacefulness. I wasn't a body. I wasn't in a body form. If anything, I think I may have had a head or a center, and the rest of me was just something very loose.
Did you feel like you were yourself? It was you that this was happening
I wasn't
to?
my body, I was my mind. I say I was my spirit. And contentment, happiness, it was the most wonderful time in my life. It was peaceful, quiet. It was magnificent. It's hard to explain, because I feel it wasn't exactly worldly. So how can I use worldly words to explain it to you? All I can say is it was a fantastic experience. So, and I was conscious of being maybe inches from the ceiling. I could feel the closeness of the ceiling.
Were you aware of any other persons or presences with you at that time, or did you feel that you were alone in that space?
I was alone, but I wasn't alone. There again, I felt the closeness or the protection of this vacuum that I was in. It was like, it's really hard to explain. It's like when you're real upset and you're a little girl and your mother hugs you. You have that, everything's going to be okay now because Mommy's hugging me. Well, I didn't feel like somebody was right there, but I had that wonderful protective feeling of the vacuum, which kind of made me feel that I wasn't alone.
The next thing that I experienced or realized that I was in this huge vastness of just nothing, just darkness. I might add in here, during this time, the pressure and the pain that you experienced during the accident was gone. You were relieved of all that. The one sensation that you're very aware of is your eyesight, or that you can see. You then